everybody, it's Bexy again. Have you ever been in a situation where you have overreacted, whether it's an angry outburst or completely shutting down, and then afterwards you're like, why did I do that? Why did I give my power away? Or why did I yell at this person who really didn't deserve to be yelled at? Oftentimes when we shut down, we feel like we can't do anything right. And then it's even worse when we have an angry outburst and we yell at somebody who didn't deserve it. And then we're just like, why did I do that? What happens is our brain goes into what's called the mammalian brain. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to be using this wonderful flip chart from Janina Fisher, who is a world-renowned trauma expert. She has created this flip chart for therapists to use with their patients. And she talks a lot about how our brains are working, especially with trauma response, and why we have the reactions that we do. So we're going to be jumping into this flip chart, which has helped me to understand why my brain does certain things. And honestly, I think awareness and understanding why we do the things that we do is like 80% of the battle. The other 20% is just practice. So when I was about 6 to 8 years old, my mom took me to the doctor because I was out of control. I was disrespectful, apparently. I had extreme bouts of hyperactivity. I was rebellious. I couldn't focus. And of course, my doctor was like, oh, because this was like the 80s, they didn't understand what neurodivergency was. They didn't understand what ADHD was. They were just like, oh, she's hyperactive. Let's put her on Ritalin. And for one reason or another, my mom decided not to do the Ritalin, not to get the prescription. And later, when I asked her about this, I asked her why she didn't even tell me that I was hyperactive, or why she didn't put me on any medication to help with my focus. She said that she didn't want it to be a crutch for me. And in some ways, I'm really glad about that. But in other ways, I really wish that I had had a knowledge that my brain worked a lot differently than other people's. Now, as I've been on this journey, I honestly don't know if I'm ADHD, neurodivergent, or if everything that I experience is because of trauma. And that's why I have been diving into research to understand my brain and what is going on. Hence, we are going to dive into this flip chart. Oh, here comes my cat. I love her. This is where she was heading. She likes to sit at the back of my chair. Okay, so the first major page of this talks a lot about the different symptoms that trauma makes us have. Anywhere from shame and worthlessness, nightmares, flashbacks, insomnia, loss of interest, numbing, decreased concentration, irritability, depression, emotional overwhelm, anxiety, panic attacks, chronic and pain headaches, substance abuse, eating disorders, feeling unreal or out of body, self-destructive behavior, loss of sense of who I am. Now, you may not experience all of these, but you may have many of these. As I've been doing my research, I've found that a lot of these symptoms coincide with symptoms of ADHD, autism, and even borderline personality disorder, which I thought that maybe I just had borderline personality disorder. After trauma has occurred, the brain and the body respond to the environment or similar situations as if the danger were still there. Telling and retelling the story doesn't change these responses. That's why I urge you, if you are still seeing a therapist who has you rehashing the same story over and over and what happened, just to see if there's answers in the story. If you were talking to a therapist, ask them about trauma response. The way that you're supposed to use this flip chart is kind of looking at it. So this becomes the front of our brain. This is the middle of our brain, and then this is the brainstem. So that way you understand exactly what you're looking at. Front of your head, back of your head, brainstem, okay? So down here, it's the back of our head, that's our brainstem. That is our reptilian brain. And this controls all of our instinctive reactions, breathing, heart rate, all of that. It has no words, no emotions. The mammalian brain is also known as the limbic system. And this is all emotions, all feelings, but no words. So it's completely opposite from our brainstem. This is where we store emotional memories and attachment experiences. This is our prefrontal cortex. This is the thinking brain. It allows us to put words into what we experience, and it helps us to reason, plan, and learn from the past. It is logical and fact-focused. No emotions. Many times, trauma survivors can't remember what happened, and so they're left wondering, did I dream this? Am I lying? Or is it just my imagination? Oftentimes, I get into conversations with friends or family about their childhoods, and it's fun to talk about and reminisce about childhood memories and stuff, except when you can't remember them. Sound familiar? I have very few memories before the age of 12. Let's look at why this happens. When we are exposed to threat, our amygdala, which is in our mammalian brain, is stimulated, and it shuts down our prefrontal cortex so that we can react instinctively to the danger. But without that thinking brain online, we can't put into words what is happening to us or even make a logical sequence of events. So because we don't have that, it interferes with us remembering it as an event. So we think that we've made it all up. All we remember is the feelings, reactions, and physical responses, often with no connection to what happened to elicit those feelings and reactions. Triggers support an ongoing sense of threat. A trigger is a sound, a sight, a smell, a change in light or temperature, a person, an animal, a time of day. Yes, anything can be a trigger. This is why we want to have power over those triggers, and awareness is the key. So traumatic memory is different. It does not understand the difference between present and past. The trigger is now the threat. Triggering is happening constantly because the brain thinks that it's better to err on the side of caution and to be ready for this danger than to trust safety. Triggered reactions are often sudden, intense, and slow to fade. In a triggering situation, because our prefrontal cortex is shut down by our amygdala, it's impossible for us to intellectualize or analyze the complex processing that these situations need. When someone has gone through childhood trauma and then later is put into the same or a similar situation, our reactions are triggered from the past, and we have no way of communicating why we are so reactive. So we're often left looking like we've overreacted for no reason. Doesn't that make you feel just a little bit better that this isn't you? This is your trauma response. It made me feel better knowing that this was just a response and it wasn't actually who I was. The most important ability of the thinking brain is to notice and observe. One of my mantras is be the observer. It has helped immensely when I find myself in triggering situations. It also helps me, even though I do try to be present as much of the time as possible, when an activity is coming up, I kind of think about what's going to happen, the situation and how it could go and things like that, to see if there might be any possible triggers that might come up. Also, doing the 5-3-1 method, which I talked about in my first video, will also help you to stay present and keep all of these 3 areas of your brain active. It's not easy, but it's definitely worth it. I hope all the information that we have been going over so far in this amazing flip chart has been helpful. Learning about how the brain works and why it's doing the things that it's doing is honestly such a huge part of healing the trauma. Thank you for joining me, and please spread the word about this channel and about the content that I'm making to anyone who you feel might need it. Remember to subscribe and hit the notifications bell so that you can be notified whenever I upload new content. Have a wonderful day. Bye.